What's up, guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Love All Life podcast, hosted by yours truly, Gaston Murray, aka G-Man. And I'm so excited to get into this episode because I'm going to be sharing with you my background story of how I got into tennis. But before I get into that, I will share something with you that might surprise you. I did not choose tennis. Tennis chose me. And I know that might be a surprise to some of you who are listening, because generally if I'm around the tennis world, or if I'm talking to tennis friends or people who love tennis, I naturally think that I chose tennis. But the reality is I did not choose the sport. I wish I could say that I did, but I didn't. So when I was around, I'd say 5 years old, my mom was the one who actually got me into tennis. And at the time, I didn't know what tennis was. I didn't know it was a sport, but it was something that she got me into. She discussed with my dad, and again, something for me to be active and do. And I had a lot of fun doing it at that age, but there was not a lot of progress with it. I ended up venturing into other sports like soccer and golf. And it's funny, I was playing those sports and played soccer for a year. And at the end of the year, you have these parties. And we had this end of the year party at CC's Pizza and whatnot. And I see that everyone is getting a trophy. And I'm like, wait a minute. What's going on here? It was all confusing. And at the end of the day, I was like, this is not for me. And something clicked in my head. I felt like I didn't really accomplish anything. I felt like I was just part of, a group that participated in something but didn't earn anything. So that was the end of my soccer career. And at the same time, I was playing golf, getting good at that. I was being taught by my dad. We ended up going to a place out in Okehili Park. And if you're not familiar with Okehili Park, I am a Florida native. So for those of you who are from Florida, you'll probably know what that place is. So we were taking lessons there, playing golf, doing good things. But the problem was there's no movement. And I was the type of kid that needed to be moving around. I needed to have an adrenaline going. So I stopped golf. And tennis came about with me and my dad, because not only was it something for me to do, the backside of that story was I was having a lot of problems in school. And specifically the problems I had was I had problems taking tests. I had a big problem, I should say, thinking about 2, 3, 4 different things at the same time, understanding how to solve equations, things of that nature. And I'm probably not the only one that struggled in school, especially at an early age, but for me, it was very evident. And so when my mom and dad took me to get tested in certain areas, I'd just go blank. I wouldn't know how to take a test the right way or naturally like some of the kids. So tennis was brought back up again initially because not only was it something for me and my dad to do, but we thought, hey, tennis could be the bridge that helps me solve problems, not only in school, but be better in life as well. So when I say I didn't choose tennis, I did not choose tennis. Tennis chose me. And the great thing about tennis is that you can be as creative as you want to be, and it's an individual sport. So you have the liberty of being whoever you want to be. And that's what I loved about tennis the most, especially when I discovered it at that age. And the moment that I discovered that, the moment something clicked, I'm like, hey, I can be my own person. There's not this stress or pressure to perform well on a test kind of in school. And I'm not trying to ignore those things. I think when you go to school, when you have an academic program, you want to try to do your best. But at the same time, sometimes those settings just don't really work out for the natural kid. And I was like that. So for me, tennis was that bridge to understand how to solve problems under pressure. And the more I played it, the more my dad and I went on the court, the more things clicked. And it's funny because you think about tennis, and if you know tennis, if you've grown up with the sport, you know that it's one of the hardest sports in the world. And it's funny because my dad, at the time, he was self-taught in tennis. He was a collegiate athlete, played wide receiver at Murray State University under the legendary head coach Frank Beamer. And when he moved down to Florida with my mom, he took up tennis. And tennis, to him, obviously, was very hard because he didn't grow up with it. His dad played it, but he never really touched a racket until he got to Florida. So we decided, hey, you know what? If we're going to play this, right, we're going to learn the game, we're going to study it. And the one other thing that ignited me to really go after tennis, when I was watching, I believe, Andy Roddick. And for those of you who don't know who Andy Roddick is, obviously he's a Hall of Fame tennis player, is former world number one American. But he was one of the guys that really got me passionate about wanting to play the game and take it seriously. So I was watching him on TV against Pete Sampras, 2002, I'd say, quarterfinal match. And that was one of the matches where I saw him kind of in full flight. I was like, man, I want to be like him. And then there was this other match before that. He was playing Juan Ignacio Chela. And you can YouTube this. And he's in the second or third set. And all of a sudden he's down and out. And he's trying to stay in the game. And he plays this incredible rally. And he's going back and forth, hustling for these balls. And at the end of the point, he goes to the stands. He's high-fiving people. He's getting the crowd going. And for me, when I saw that, something clicked in my head. So, you know what? I want to not only just play tennis, but I want to eventually someday even pursue professional tennis, or at the least play at the collegiate level. And so that's what really put a fire deep down inside of me, not just to play tennis from a recreational standpoint, but to want to go after it. And so my dad and I, we decided, hey, we're going to get into this. And so we're watching all these Nick Bollettieri videos. We're looking at the mental aspect of what he's talking to in terms of his students at the Bollettieri Academy. And again, we're taking this all in raw. We're watching all these videos, and we don't know everything about tennis, but we're trying to soak in everything we can so that when we get on the court, we at least know what we're doing in terms of footwork, strategy, how to hit the ball. And I can remember even days where my dad was just telling me, hey, move your feet like Leighton Hewitt. And he was another up-and-coming star that I watched on TV and that I admired. And so those are some of the things that really drove me in terms of wanting to pursue tennis. And I say I don't regret any of it. I didn't have all the resources. I didn't have all the more money in the world, I should say. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't have the best coaches around, but I had my dad, and I don't regret any time that we had together. There were a lot of ups and downs, as you would probably assume, from a father and son coaching perspective. But other than that, I learned so much from him from the mental aspect. And I also had the privilege of him training me off the court as well, which was a big advantage that I had over most of my opponents when it was time to play junior tournaments. But going back to around the time when I was 7, 8 years old. So once I see all these things, I discover Andy Roddick, watching all these Nick Bollettieri videos, things of that nature. I decided, hey, you know what, Dad, I want to go for it. I don't want this to be just a recreational sport. I want this to be something that's a part of me. I wanted this to become part of my identity in life. And from that point on, we decided, okay, we're going to train and we're going to work to play junior tournaments. So I entered my first junior tournament at the age of 8, 2003. And if you were unfamiliar with tournaments in Florida, you had these beginner tournaments that were called rookie tournaments. And so I signed up for this rookie tournament that was about 5 minutes, I'd say 10 minutes down the street from where I lived. And I'm playing this rookie tournament. It's only 8-game pro sets with that. And you think about that tournament, you think about that format now, and you think, man, that's a lot of pressure because you don't have as many games to work with compared to a normal tournament. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is just a normal process of how we're supposed to play in terms of this format. So I go in, and most of these other juniors, they have their coaches, they have their parents. Again, a whole lot more experience than my dad and I from, I'd say, a tennis cultural perspective and in terms of just understanding the game. But again, I quickly learned that tennis, it's about competing and doing your best. It's not about knowing everything. And so I get on the court, I'm playing one of the top seeds, and I'm down around 7-4, 7-5, obviously one game away from losing, getting out of the main draw. And all of a sudden, I just start finding this way to compete. I start finding my way on how to solve problems and come back. And again, I didn't know everything about tennis, but I knew one thing is that if I could have a never say die attitude, I could win the match. And I ended up coming back from that match, beating out one of the top seeds. I think it was around 8-7, 9-7. I think they played tiebreakers at 7-all, 8-all, whatever it was. And so after that first round, I get to the second round, and I ended up blowing out the competition, maybe losing no more than maybe 5 or 6 games for the next 3 matches. And so I ended up winning the first tournament I ever played in. And again, it's a rookie tournament, nothing too major. Again, there was nothing too big on the line, but what it taught me is to understand how to compete and handle pressure. And I didn't have to have this sense of thinking I needed to know everything compared to school and tests where, you study for tests, you go in there and there's this sense of pressure that, hey, if you don't get this equation right, if you don't remember this, you're going to get it wrong. So tennis for me was a funner aspect and more creative aspect because there were certain challenges and certain circumstances that I know I couldn't control, right? Obviously off the court in a school environment, it's more controlled type environment where you know what you're getting into, but there's still a lot of pressure to remember everything that you need to do in order to have success compared to tennis where I'm going out on the court and I have these unexpected circumstances. I don't know what's coming at me, but at the same time, I've got this adrenaline rush and I've got, this psyche that's telling me, hey, just be ready for anything that comes your way and just be ready to solve problems. And in that sense, it might seem harder than, let's say, receiving a natural equation in math or whatever you're doing and just doing it. But I found out that being creative and being able to handle pressure at a young age allowed me to solve all the problems that I had in school. And I'd say it wasn't until maybe, late elementary school, early middle school is when I started really getting good grades and applying myself. But up until that moment, I just used tennis as a bridge to say, hey, I'm going to be all in. And I'm going to have this never say die attitude. I'm going to compete. I'm going to fight my butt off. I'm going to listen to my dad as much as I can and other voices to understand, hey, if I want to be good at this sport, I have to believe in my individuality. I have to believe in my creativity. And I also have to believe in the simple fact that, hey, I enjoy this game. I love this game. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And so that was really my motivation, especially when I was playing junior tennis at a young age. And then to go into the background of Florida junior tennis, especially when it came down to competing against other juniors in Florida, there was this, I'd say, cutthroat culture in Florida like you'd never believe. And it was something that my dad and I really had to prepare ourselves for, but there were a lot of unexpected circumstances that came up. And what it really taught me is that when push comes to shove, when people are cheating you, when people are trying to slander you, when parents are trying to talk you out of a match, there was numerous times where I'm competing and I see the parent, if they're upset about maybe the call that I made, or if they don't like what's happening in the match, now they're on the fence, they're talking to me, they're trying to intimidate me. And I'm seeing all these things. I'm like, wow, I didn't know this culture actually exists. But at the same time, I know deeper down inside, I got to fight through this because this is just part of the game. And I'd say this is a lesson for all of you, especially for some of you who are maybe growing up in junior tennis, or maybe you're in the recreational stage and you're trying to understand how to fight difficult situations. And I'd say the beauty of tennis is that it allows you to adapt to circumstances that you can't control. And once you understand that you can't control everything, that's when you gain control. And for me, that's how I figured it out. And it's not to say that you can't get emotional. It's not to say that you'll never cry, you'll never get upset or anything like that. I think growing up, my dad obviously did a good job of telling me, hey, these are expectations and standards of how you need to act on the court, right? If you cry, if you get upset, then you're going to get pulled off. And there were times where, hey, he pulled me off the court because my attitude was not in alignment with what we talked about. So I was thankful for that at a young age, that there was a standard of how I needed to act and represent myself on the court. And I think that's something that a lot of juniors are missing. You see it often in the pro level as well, but you see it a lot more in the junior recreational, let's say, aspect, where people are just out of control and they're emotional. And they don't understand that tennis is a game where you have to let go of control in order to gain control. And so with that, I'm fighting all these unknown circumstances, but at the same time, my mind is developing a great capacity to fight and have belief and to create an opportunity for myself to win no matter what the cost, regardless of whether my opponent was cheating or not, regardless of what the tournament was or what the location was, what the surface was. I'm determined in my mind to do whatever it takes to win. So that was really my mindset when it came to junior tennis. And obviously coaching with my dad, we had ups and downs, he'll tell you that. But again, I would not take back any of the memories that we had, because we accomplished a whole lot together, especially during my junior time in the state of Florida. And as I'm growing up, right now, I'm kind of maturing and speaking now in the later stages of my junior career. Now I'm in high school, and now my goal is to receive a Division I scholarship. And so now my dad and I are planning for that. We're looking at all these schools, and I was considered what you call a late bloomer. I was not one of the ones that you would say, hey, he's the top pick or top prospect. Now, I wasn't a good recruiting class. I was around top, I'd say 20, 25, Southeast, top 15 in the state of Florida, and then top 100 in the nation in terms of recruiting class. But it wasn't special enough to where any top Division I coaches were fighting for me. I wasn't that type of prospect, but I was the type where I had a lot of potential to do really good at a big, I'd say, Division I school, a big one, I should say, or a mid-major school. So I'm in my senior year, and I still haven't picked any schools. No schools have really launched their teeth at me. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm just going to keep playing this long game. And a lot of my other peers, they either picked schools, they already had schools that were in their mind when they were in their junior year of high school. But for me, again, I was a late bloomer. And so I get to the spring semester of my high school year, still haven't picked. And now I'm in the process of, hey, I'm praying, okay, hopefully I can get to a good school and play where I need to play. And so I ended up getting, a call from Thomas Mosier, who was the head coach of the University of North Carolina Greensboro tennis team at the time in 2012. And I also got a call from the ECU coach. And what's funny is both of them were fighting for me at the same time. And the ECU coach ended up flying down, saw me practice, and offered me an official visit. So he flew down to see me practice, and then he flew me up so I can take this official visit. After that official visit, I take an official visit to UNCG. I visit Mosier and his team, and I have to make a decision. And this is the first week of April, again, 2012. I ended up skipping states, right? The year before that, I ended up winning the individual state title, 4A title for the state of Florida, and took second the overall title. And so the year after, I told my coach, my high school coach, hey, I'm going to skip districts and states because I got to get recruited. So I ended up deciding to go to UNCG after picking those two visits. And there were other schools as well, Florida Gulf Coast, UCF. Those are really good schools that I was looking at. But they weren't necessarily schools that really, really wanted me. So I said, hey, let's just keep playing the long game. Let's pray. I talked with my parents. And, the biggest thing, or I should say the biggest lesson that I learned out of that is that you don't have to have everything going your way, especially with the recruiting process. I know that's tough for a lot of you and some parents who are listening to this. It's okay to play the long game and understand that if schools are not gnawing at your kid, it's okay. There's going to be other schools out there potentially that fit what your kid wants. And for me, that was UNCG. So I'm incredibly thankful and grateful that I was able to now receive a Division I scholarship there. Ended up playing 3 in the lineup pretty much all 4 years. And my junior year ended up getting hurt a little bit. Had a back injury, had to wear a back brace for about 4 to 5 months during the fall semester. And again, with college, there's a lot of ups and downs. And you kind of just get used to, I'd say, the culture. And you have to understand, hey, you're in it for the long run. But the college life, especially student athlete life, you have to understand that you're there, not just for academics, but you're there for your sport too. And for me, primarily, I was there for tennis. I did put a priority in school, but my main focus was tennis. That's why I was there. That's why I was given a scholarship. So I ended up finishing out all 4 years of college, graduated with a media studies degree. And I enjoyed the process of being a student athlete. That was one of the most fun times I've ever had. And with my college teammates, Danny Mack, who I grew up with in juniors, I known him since I was 7, 8 years old. We ended up going to the same school, UNCG. So yeah, shout out to Danny Mack. You're listening to this. His dad is the one who actually called the coach and got his interest in me for that school, UNCG. So I'm incredibly thankful for that. And it just goes to show, guys, you don't have to have every resource or every connection, everything going your way. You just have to have the right people in your life to connect you to the opportunities that you want. And so I was very thankful for my college career. And then after that, I went back to Florida, played on ITF Future Circuit a little bit, 2 years. I think I should have played a whole lot more. And I'd say now I'm definitely interested in playing a little bit more, playing some of the UTR tournaments. But played ITFs, Futures, 1.5 years, 2 years, and then I got into coaching, and I met a lot of people in the tennis industry in terms of WTA and ATP professionals, and some of those include Riley Opelka, Coco Golf. I was able to develop a really good relationship with Coco's family, her dad, and I thank them for giving me the opportunity to experience a tennis life with them. And being a local hitting partner. I'm also traveling with them to San Diego and U.S. Open, as well as Jay Berger. Jay Berger was an instrumental part in my life in terms of a tennis mentor, and also allowed me to play with his player, Riley. And, of course, if you follow the tennis world, you guys know who Riley Opelka is. Great guy, very talented. And so I was a hitting partner for some of those players. And then fast forward, Jay Berger's college coach, Chuck Creasy, was looking for an assistant. And so I was like, okay. Jay mentioned the opportunity to me, and Chuck flew me out to Charleston. And so for those of you who, follow my tennis story, now I'm currently based in Charleston. The reason why I got to Charleston was because I was working under Chuck Creasy as the assistant coach at the Citadel. So that's how I really got to the place where I am today. And I'm very thankful that God has given me the opportunities and has blessed me with consistent, healthy cultures, I'd say. And again, tennis, it's a journey where you face a lot of ups and downs. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And this is my message to you, especially the juniors at the recreational level. Pros can take this advice as well. You have to be willing to suffer in the sport and understand that everything is not going to go your way. I'd say from the beginning of my tennis journey until now, I understand the fact that there's certain things that are just not going to go my way. There's certain things that I look at even as a coach and a player. I'd say, you know what? I could have handled those situations better if I were to understand how to process and problem solve those the right way. It doesn't mean that everything was going to go my way or that I was going to win that match or have this certain outcome with this player that I was coaching. But at the same time, I would have had a much level-headed mindset looking back in some areas of my life on the tennis court and off the court if I wasn't taking things personally, if I was understanding that, hey, I need to be teachable, I need to be coachable, and I need to understand that this sport is hard, but it's going to teach me lessons not only on the court, but off the court as well. So that's my message to you guys for those who are listening. And I want to thank you guys for listening to my story. And again, I will be uploading this. You can find this on Spotify, on Apple as well. And again, I want to thank you guys for joining in, listening to my story. There's going to be more to come. And again, this is just the first episode. But again, I'm very excited about this journey that you guys are sharing with me. And I hope you guys will be tuning into more episodes. Love you guys. Stay blessed. G-Man is out.